Islam, at this time, all those that are able, and we rise and face the east, place our feet at a 90-degree angle, raise 5 fingers on the left hand, 2 on the right, and repeat the North American prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe,
Allah, the
Allah,
Father of the
Father of the universe,
Father of love,
the
Father,
Father of love,
truth,
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 peace,
peace,
freedom,
freedom,
and justice.
and
and justice.
Allah is my protector,
Allah is my protector,
my guide,
my
my
God,
guide,
and my salvation.
and my salvation.
By night
by
By
night
night
and by day,
and by day,
and by day,
through his holy prophet,
through his holy prophet,
through Ali.
true.
through Ali.
Amen.
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 Praise him. First, like to rise and give praise to the great God Allah, the Almighty, eternal, incomprehensible, Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. I'd like to give high honors to his illustrious prophet, the last prophet in these days, the founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, love made manifest. I'd like to give honors to the forerunner of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, for the Marcus Messiah Garden, purity made manifest. Throughout the Asiatics that they had one aim, one God, and one destiny. I'd like to give honors to all the true and divine prophets of Allah, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Confucius, etc. I'd like to give honors to the forerunner of the Prophet Jesus, the John the Harbinger. I'd like to give honors to all of the sages, masterminds, all the matriarchs and patriarchs of all the ages. I'd like to give honors to this Moorish Science Temple of America, this Moorish divine and national movement in North America, to all of its leadership, past, present, and future. I'd like to give honors to our past Supreme Grand Advisors and moderators in succession, Brother C. Kirkman Bay, Brother F. Nelson Bay, and Brother J. Blakely Bay. I'd like to give honors to our past Grand Sheik and moderator, Brother R. Laville, to our present Grand Sheik and moderator, Brother R. Jones Bay, and to his assistant, Brother A. Hopkins Bay. I'd like to give honors to all officials of the Moorish Science Temple of America, national, state, and local. I'd like to give honors to all grand governors and their assistants. I'd like to give honors to the grand governor here in the state of New York, Brother D. Clark Eel, to his assistant, the A. Gaines Eel. I'd like to give honors to all members, our sheiks and sheikhs, all divine ministers of the Moorish Science Temple of America. I'd like to give honors to all wayfarers, all seekers after truth, all tillers of the soil, all generous souls. I'd like to give honors to the Grand Sheikhs of the Moorish Science Temple number 34, Mr. C. Seals Eel, to her assistant, Brother W. Condemned Bay. Once again, I'd like to give honors to each and every one of you who joined us this evening on this call. I'd like to give honors to everything Prophet Noble Drew Ali brought and taught for the uplifting of fallen humanity. I'd like to give honors to our two flags, the American flag, flag of our birth, and the Moorish flag, flag of our descent. I'd like to give honors to our charter, give us 10 wonders and mysteries of the world, which give us the right to practice, promote, and propagate the faith of Islamism in America without molestation. Last but not least, I'd like to give honors to man, because when man honors man, he honors Allah, and what man does for man, he does for Allah. Islam? At this time, I'd like to take a reading from Laws of the Moorish Science Temple of America. First, I'd like to turn your attention to the divine constitution and bylaws. Salvation, starting crescent, our God, all-seeing eye, unity, and press. The Moorish Science Temple of America, the divine constitution and bylaws. Act 1. The Grand Sheik and the chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America is empowered to make law and enforce law with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The assistant Grand Sheik is to assist the Grand Sheik in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Act 2. All meetings are to be opened and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is a holy day of rest because on a Friday, the first man was formed in flesh. And on a Friday, the first man departed out of flesh and ascended into his Father God, Allah. That cause, Friday is a holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No member is put in danger or accused falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are a part and partial of the government and must live the life accordingly. Act 5. This organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality. We are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and a partial of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, Black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the Prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites, who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and a partial of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities in the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children. Look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his Father God, Allah. Noble Drew Ali, founder, Moorish American Prayer, Allah the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. Thus I took a reading of the 7 acts, the divine constitution and bylaws of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Next, I'd like to turn your attention to the great meeting is on, Quran questions for Moorish Americans. I'll be taking a reading from page 7. Questionnaire and additional laws for the Moorish Americans by the Prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Act 1. Grand sheikhs and governors and heads of all temples, all businesses. Each said temple must be approved by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali before acting upon by any members. Let it be finance, property, or any line of life that will cause the support of any group of members. Any former officer that violates these laws is subject to be removed from his office under heavy restriction, etc., by the Prophet or the Grand Sheikh. Act 2. All members are to attend their adept meetings and their public meetings promptly. If a member is found standing around in their meeting period, he shall be fined 50 cents in the first case. And on the second, he will be fined $1, which will go on your emergency fund. If member is working, his monthly dues must be paid. And if he has money in the bank, he must subscribe for as much as he is able to the Moorish Uplifting Fund, because it takes finance to uplift a nation. Act 3. It is lawful and divine duty of every good member, if he is able in finance, to aid me in saving the nation. And if he does not, he is an enemy to the cause of uplifting his own people, and justice must catch you. Let it be he or she, according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, as I have the power invested in my hands, and will have to enforce the law in order to save the nation. Act 4.
All members, while making a public speech, must not use any assertion against the American flag, or speak radical against the church, or any member of any organized group, because we are to teach love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Act 5. All members must promptly attend their meetings and send their children to Sunday school, and the teacher must confirm himself to the questionnaire. And let every member exercise his 5 senses who is able to do so, because out from your Sunday school comes the guiders of the nation. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality. And we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, Black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites, who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and a partial of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children. Look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father God, Allah. Thus, I took a reading from the 7 Acts of the Questionnaire and Additional Laws for the Moorish Americans by the prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Next, I'd like to turn your attention to our holy literature. The Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Circle 7. Divinely prepared by the noble prophet Drew Ali, by the guiding of his father God, Allah, the great God of the universe, to redeem man from his sinful and fallen stage of humanity back to the highest plane of life with his father God, Allah. Know thyself and Allah, period. The genealogy of Jesus. Life and works of Jesus in India, Europe, and Africa, in the land of Egypt. Praise Allah. I'd like to take a reading this evening from the Divine Instructions from the Holy Prophet, found on page 35, chapter 25, A Holy Covenant of the Asiatic Nation. Divine Instruction 1. Ye are the children of one Father, provided for by his care. In the breast of one mother hath given you suck. That the bonds of affection, therefore, unite thee with thy brothers, that peace and happiness may dwell in thy father's house. And when ye separate in the world, remember the relation that bindeth you to love and unity, and prefer not a stranger before thy own blood. If thy brother is in adversity, assist him. If thy sister is in trouble, forsake her not. So shall the fortunes of thy father contribute to the support of his whole race, and his care be continued to you all, in your love to each other. Islam. The fallen sons and daughters of the Asiatic nation of North America need to learn to love instead of hate, and to know their higher self and lower self. This is the uniting of the Holy Quran of Mecca for the teaching and instructing of all Moorish Americans, etc. From the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Know yourself and your Father God, Allah, that you may learn to love instead of hate. Every man need to worship under his own vine and fig tree, the uniting of Asia. Praise Allah, praise Allah, praise Allah. I'd like to say Islam to each and every one of the Muslims, and honors to each and every one of you for joining us for this evening's civics class, hosted by Moorish Science Temple number 34, and our dear brother K. Turner Bay. I pray that we'll be able to all be uplifted by the demonstrations and the gifts of the understanding that Allah has given us. As part of the object of this organization is to teach those things necessary to make our members better citizens. I pray that we'll be able to continue to keep the thoughts and the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice on our mind during this meeting. And at this time, without further ado, I'd like to call on our dear brother K. Turner Bay, that he may be able to conduct the civics class. Peace.
Peace. Thank you, dear brother. Islam. I like to rise and give praises to the great God Allah, honors to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and everything that pertains to Islam. I like to give honors to the brother and everything the brother gave honors to. I like to give honors to each and every one of you because when man honors man, he honors his father, God Allah. Islam, whoo, electrified age, Moors. I don't know if anybody saw the news and the broadcast about what Mamdani said about New York's budget and threatening what he might threaten to do. Um, Today we're going to talk about something that touches us all, the city's money, the rights and the budgets. The city is in a budget crisis right now, and the mayor says there's only two ways to fix it: making more money, raising taxes or fees; spending less money, cutting programs, freeze hiring, or lay off workers. In simple words, but the effect hits every household, every community center, every program. But here's what the mayor doesn't always say: there's more than just raising taxes or cutting services. One of the smartest moves is to look closely at every dollar the city spends. That's called the full audit. An audit is like taking a magnifying glass to your house or business. You check everything. Which program really helps people? Which contracts are overpriced? What's money being wasted on that doesn't serve the community? Think of it this way. If someone gave you $100 and you spent 20 on something useless every week, by the end of the year, you'll have over 1,000 lost, just like that. The city works in the same way. Here's what a full audit can do for the people: reveal waste and insufficiencies. Millions could be tied up in contracts, programs, or salaries that don't serve anyone. Prioritize spending on what matters: public safety, education, senior care, and housing. Hold leadership accountability. Citizens can see where the money goes and demand justice and fairness. Unlock hidden resources. Money freed up from waste can stay in our community instead of disappearing into bureaucratic black holes. In 2023, New York audits found tens of millions in unnecessary spending across departments. That's money that could have funded schools, community centers, and elderly care programs. Brothers and sisters, this is more than numbers. This is about power of self-governance. As Moorish Americans, we know when the people understand the flow of money, they control their destiny. We know that knowledge is power, justice is responsibility. Every dollar wasted outside the community is a dollar denied to our family, our elders, our children. So when we hear about a budget crisis, we can't panic. We got to ask, where is the waste? Who benefits? What can we direct to uplift our people? That's civic intelligence in action. Remember, raising taxes and cutting spending are just the surface. Understanding the money, auditing the spending, holding leaders accountable, that's the true power. As Moorish citizens, it's our duty to watch over our city, demand fairness, and make sure every resource serves the people. And that is how we turn a crisis into an opportunity to protect, uplift, and build our communities from within. Islam, Islam, Islam. I know a lot of people out there seeing what's going on. And this is reflecting not just with our city, as far as giving threats or what seemed like threats or demands toward the people, the president as well. This is a very, very interesting time when we have talks of takeovers or government takeovers or whole country takeovers, money crisis. And you know what's funny? I Googled when we had this storm in New York. I just Googled and asks what companies would benefit from a city shutdown or heavy storm that would shut businesses down. And I kid you not, the same 3 or 4 companies that everybody talks about that owns the most municipal bonds of this city came up that they will actually benefit from it. So it's a very, very interesting time. Islam. I wanted to ask you, dear brother, I. Smith Ill, what does it feel like to hear mayor of a city say he's going to levy taxes on the people to pay our debts?
Islam. Praise Allah, honors to his prophet, and honors to you, dear brother, and honors to each and one of you for joining this civics class. It's very interesting for me because I feel like I'm living in, like you've stated, a very interesting time for myself, living on my own and living in, New York City being one of, if not the most expensive cities in the world. And, at a time and change of government where a lot of questions are being asked. And, in terms of the proposition, and please correct me if I'm incorrect on this, but I do know that one of the things that was proposed by Mayor Mamdani in terms of, adding to the budget or lifting the budget up is raising property taxes. And from what I've seen, raising property taxes almost seems like a chess move or the thought of it, at least, because there's this relationship that the city has with the state. And the state government is in the position, Governor Kathy Hochul is kind of being urged to, and has been even, since the mayoral campaign, to consider raising taxes on the wealthiest citizens, specifically within the city of New York, but within the state of New York. And then that has always brought me back to the chapter on the holy unity of the rich and the poor. Because if we have the city of New York, and again, my figures and numbers on this are not the sharpest, so I pray that we can continue to build on this, that if a majority of the citizens of the city of New York are not within that top class of the wealthiest earners, each and every one of the citizens of the city want to benefit from what the city has to offer. But if not everyone's able to afford those certain things and afford those certain luxuries, while there's a small pocket of people who are able to exorbitantly spend on, what they wish and their pleasures and their likes and not give back to the city, it raises a question as to, well, why are they not willing to give? And in terms of what you were speaking about earlier, in terms of a full audit, it's not just enough to have a raising of a tax for a specific group of people or for a specific commodity, if you will. It also, like you were saying, has to come into the next step of, well, where is the money going afterwards? After the finance comes in, what are we actually implementing to make the lives of New Yorkers or the lives of citizens better? And I think it's easy to say, especially as I can understand growing up, hearing about politics, whether it's in my local government and national government, that, well, the rich just want to get richer and they're not going to help the poor. And even in our chapter of the beginning Christianity, it talks about Jesus speaking to the common people and the rulers and the rich not liking these teachings.
Allah.
How do we quantify this sort of thought that, each and every citizen, whether they are rich or poor or middle class, perhaps, has to contribute? But thinking about the idea that those who have more means may be able to contribute more than those who are underneath them in terms of class. And that altogether brings to mind, part of the instruction in that chapter, the Holy Unity of the Rich and the Poor, where at once we should have the liberality of the rich and the contentment of the poor. Can those who have more means, cut away some of their interests and their excesses, and give back to those who, only just want to be able to make their ends meet and meet, some sort of standard and quality of life that's higher than the ones that they're living now. So it just brings
Praise
a lot of
Allah.
questions. Gotta say peace.
Praise the Lord. I see a hand, Sister Jordan Hill and Brother Peter Zill. I'm not gonna. I'm gonna let you go, Sister Jordan Hill.
Islam. I'm gonna yield for Brother Peter Zeal. Praise Allah.
I think he gonna yield for you. Islam, Brother Peter Zill.
Definitely yielding to the sister Islam.
Islam. First, I want to rise. I want to give praise to Allah and honor to our holy prophet, Prophet Noble Drew Ali. I want to give honors to everything that the prophet brought and to all of the honors that Brother Smithiel, the chairman, gave at the opening of this meeting. No. Praise Allah. I have the children here listening in as well.
Praise
And
Allah.
I want to let you all know all three. So we got an age range of 9.5, 13, and 14. One in high school, one in ninth grade, eighth grade, and fourth grade, respectively. Praise Allah. Well, that wasn't respectively, they're in different orders. So I just wanted to, because this is, you touched on, as you do, and Brother K. Turner, you touched on a lot of things in your opening of this class. So I'm just gonna focus on a couple of things that you said that or that brother that we're responding to, and then I'll come back around with the other things. I don't take too much time. I'm just gonna say that when it comes to the taxes, I think it's for the state of New York, it's often interesting that a lot of the New Yorkers, the New York City, can definitely feel like the pinch, and they feel like they're carrying that burden when those taxes go up, and for good reason. But also understanding that the capital, people like to think that the capital of New York is New York City, and people who are upstate, when you spend time upstate New York, definitely feel differently about those in the city. So it's like we're in our own little bubble or microcosm of a world. But the funding that comes, and the reason why you can pull those chains, and there's always been that sort of enmity, I would say, between the mayor and then the governor, is because the funding comes from the city. Most, if not a good majority of the funding for New York State comes and flows from New York City. And so there are lots of things to take into consideration with why they're constantly going back and forth. But as we all know, and I'm just gonna leave it there, as we know, when it comes to funding on a federal basis to a state, a lot of that is not based on a lot of things we think. It's really, how do you get things done on a federal level? How does the federal government get states to cooperate and do things that they want, or how do they compromise? It's by funding for infrastructure. That's where the states really get their money when it comes from the federal government. And so let me just put it a little bit more plainly. If the federal government wants to push for, you know, more support about ICE and whatever else, that's how they can put the crunch on the states to get certain things done. And a lot of times we think, well, what's happening here in New York? What's this pushback, and how come it's happening here if we don't support it? Well, New York, if you want to finish that BQE, or you want to finish those roads with Jackie Robinson, or all these streets, and all of that funding that comes to fixing that infrastructure comes from the federal government, and that's how they do it to get states to do certain things. So you see a battle, just pointing out that there's a battle between federal and state, and then let's not even talk about local. And then you have what's going on. You got your city on a local level, I guess, and then the state of New York. I was thinking about what you said about the raising of the taxes. And initially, when you think about it, where my first initial thought is you want to talk about when it comes to the New York City budget, you have to kind of understand where the money flows. And then you can actually see how power moves throughout the city. So initially, maybe many of us are thinking it's education, and their budget's well over 100 billion, well over. So they've got this budget, and they've got, usually you can go see their blueprint, and it's supposed to be education, policing and corrections, housing and development, health services, sanitation, parks and infrastructure, social services. And then you can always look at their budgets and things like that. But I just wanted to leave it there because I know that there's just so much here, but you want to look at where the funding actually goes. And the largest slice goes to education. The second is social services, and then it's public safety. But education and youth investment, safety net, public safety, I think those are the key three areas. So, and then when you're talking about taxes being raised and who it affects, I know we like to say, oh, it affects the little person. Yeah, in different ways. It just depends on what type of tax is being raised and who actually pays that, which isn't always who it's officially aimed at. So with that, I just also will say I have tax experience in law school and other LLM tax. So if you have tax questions, then let me know, but I will say peace. Peace and love more.
Peace. Thank you, dear sister. And that's why I spoke about, one of the greatest powers is that audit. Because really, most people are laymen and we don't know where the money actually goes, what is being specifically spent on. Like, we may have a roundabout figure sometimes, but when you do audits, you know exactly where every cent is going. Islam, Brother Petersil? Islam, you still with us, Brother Petersil? Praise Allah. We'll come back to you, dear brother. Islam, Brother Rebels Bay. You was on? You hear what's going on?
Islam, yes, I do. First, I rise and give praise to Allah and honor to His holy prophet and everything pertaining to Islam and everything. I guess the chairman did open up when he opened. Excuse me, when he opened the meeting. Yeah, I was listening in. I'm not an expert on city finances because, well, I'm not a member of the city, but it was good to hear what the sister said. I think that if we use what we know that the city uses, it's a good thing. I think then the way to change it is now we're members of the Moorish Science Temple of America and trying to use the teachings of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and which is really what Allah has gained for us to function on the plane of things being manifest. So I think what we're looking at is that we're inside of a system that we might not be all totally aware of and how the intricacies of it work. I think the more, from my perspective, and that might be true, the more I understand it, then how can I maneuver within it, but not be of it? And I think when it comes to the taxation and stuff like that, I can understand that. And one thing I always remember, somebody once said that about paying no tax versus paying a lot of tax was not so much to get angry at the person that wasn't paying it, but to ask them, well, how did he do it? you know. And I think then you learn about how the law is set up and how sometimes the connivance of the law is set up. So we can't get mad at I'm not going to mention the person's name because you all know I'm probably talking about. But I remember him saying that, don't get mad at me because I'm not paying. Ask me how I got out of it or how I'm not paying it. So I think now, like the prophet said, by knowing the law, then we'll know how we can maneuver and be a part, but not a part of it. And also, I kept thinking more and more, I don't think it's past time, but we as being members of the organization of the Moorish Science Temple, we don't have, if we're a government within a government, then we got to act like we're a government.
Mm.
So the prophet set certain things up. People ask me, oh, the Moors don't have a school. Yes, we do. We have a Sunday school. That's what we come to learn. And out of the Sunday school comes the guidance of the nation. So those guys of the nation that are maybe attorneys or like I guess like the sister is, whatever positions they're in life, they come in with knowing that. Now the only change will be, or the big change will be, well, what did the prophet say? What did he say about the rules and the rich and the divine, not the divine order, but the connection between the rules and the rich, which is on our divine instruction. So therefore, that's what we do to change it. If we could change it, but if we can't change it externally, but we can definitely begin to change it internally. So I think that's what we should be working on, even though we're still part of the government. Yeah, we should learn that, we should also know, well, how can we change to make it better for our people? Meaning that those that are in the temple and those that are without the temple too. Because people will come in when they see the good works that we're doing and maybe the businesses that we have established. And the prophet did it when he was here. He had businesses, he had newspapers, he had all those things. We don't have them maybe now in the extent that when he was here, but those were, Jesse Bing and all them were part of the organization. So therefore, if we just go back and study the blueprint, like the sister said, like I think, oh no, I think you said about the blueprint, how things are set up, then we could say, well, no, I can do that. No, I can't do that. Yes, I'll do that. No, I can't do that. And the final comment is I did read um, some books, Think and Grow Rich and a few others. And what I noticed about those books, that they actually took some of the sciences that we knew as Moorish Americans and made money from it, profited from it, and I don't, and not necessarily in a bad way. But when you go back and even study Brother Marcus Garvey, he tells you how to run a government, how to run a business, how to run an organization. So I think the guidelines have always been there. We just don't do it maybe collectively. And I'll say peace.
Praise Allah. Thank you. You touched on something real serious when it comes to knowledge of, where the money is flowing. As the sister said, a lot of people in these neighborhoods and the so-called ghettos, they don't even understand their benefits of being a citizen. And they don't even know what's due to them. So a lot of hardships is it's either one or two places that they go to, when it's more benefits that is laid down in the law for us when you go through hardships, when you want to own a business. But if you're not educated on these things, like you said, you'll miss out on the things that's for you. Islam, Brother Petershill, you ready now?
Islam, bro. Islam, could the most hear me?
Yeah.
All right, praise Allah. First and foremost, I want to ye are the children of one father, provided for by his kid, and the breast of one mother has given we suck. Want to rise, give praises to the great God of the universe, and honors to his prophet and everything that he has brought for the upliftment of fallen humanity. Honors to man and everyone under the sound of my voice. Peace and love, man.
Peace.
So this topic, it's a very layered topic. So I'm gonna just try to keep it concise, right? This is my view. This is my point of view, right? They have a saying to say that if we want to get somewhere that we've never been, right, we got to do things that we've never done, right? So now, looking at the government, right, and those in that aspect, right? When was the last time we had a political power that focused on the spiritual aspect of the people, right? Because when we're speaking about debt, when we're talking about debt, right? That's where the debt lies, right? In that area, right?
Praise Allah.
He said the highest self is human spirit, clothed with soul, made into the form of Allah, right? So us as Moors, and coming into this correction, we have to look at. I feel we have to look at it from a different viewpoint, right? We can't look at. I don't think we can look at it through from the money aspect or the tax aspect and still reach the resolution that we're trying to reach.
Praise Allah.
Right. So yeah, I think it is kind of like is now don't tell me how it's done, right? How are we gonna do it? That's what but that's why that's why we're here to build. But it's just this looking at it, I think it's just a different viewpoint, and it's gonna start with ourselves. For me, it's gonna start with ourselves. Us understanding that essence, right, within the temple first, right? When we have our events, when we have our meetings, we understand, we could kind of gauge that unity, right? and then once we perfect it, and then we can take it out. You know? But the money, like from in 1933, right, when they changed the backing of the backing of the money from gold, right, and they changed it from a fixed standard, right, from it being fixed to it being an unlimited standard. So I think another problem is a lot of people in the government and ourselves as well, we're still attempting to run the government as if we have a fixed back, but it's unlimited, right? When it was, it was transferred from being backed by the gold to being backed by the people, right? The people, man is infinite, right?
Praise Allah, dear brother.
That I say peace. Peace and love to the most.
Praise Allah. Islam, Sister Jordan.
Islam. I was just gonna say that I'm gonna put some links into the chat for different sites if the Moors want to continue to do their research after, for where you can find information, numbers, visuals, including looking from the federal perspective on for the state of New York on what their budget looks like, where it's supposed to be spent or how it's being spent. And then also from the state level, from the comptroller's office, how they spend their money and where it goes. And also from the local level. So I'll just continue to put some links in there and feel free to share them as well. Peace.
Islam, Brother Rebels Bay.
Islam, thank you, brother, and I thank the sister for her leading us on too. So the question would be for me then. I know the if I understand correctly, the meeting was to talk about the city budget or what's going on in the city of New York, basically. I guess in my mind, I was thinking, well, how does that relate to us as being members of the Moorish Science Temple, number one? And then number two, I think, actually the most highest would, what can we do as members of this organization to make it better for ourselves, which will make it better for the world as well? So I'm thinking, like the Prophet said, all the brother mentioned about, he didn't say it all like, well, he mentioned about the Prophet said all gold, silver, finance belongs in the Moorish Science Temple. That's meaning it's part of our legacy, the gold, silver, and finance. So I guess to me, under how do we take what the prophet said and use it today for ourselves? Because he mentioned about other groups, and that's what other groups have done. I'll say certain Jewish communities, etc. They have already got things going for themselves. I don't necessarily, maybe because I don't sit in their meetings, but I don't hear them talking about what the government is doing. They need to be concerned about what they're doing. So I'm thinking the same way. And then the more I understand some of the teachers, Brother Marcus Garvey, the Harbinger, that he was about what we need to do to be recognized in the said government, which the prophet talked about. So I think at some points, hopefully you'll have another meeting, what we can do and can begin to do to build and understand. Because like you said, the lack of knowledge is the ignorance of that. Because people they lack knowledge on how to do this and lack knowledge how to do that. So when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. There's plenty of free things that we can be a part of now, small business administrations, et cetera, and they're free. They're free. But if you don't seek them, then as far as you know, they don't exist. But I think that what maybe we should do, and maybe for further programs, is to maybe what can the Moorish Science Temple do, or what we can do as individuals within the Moorish Science Temple to help raise our income, better businesses for our boys and girls. The prophet talked about all of those things. So what can we do starting now so that we won't get caught in a conundrum that we might be suffering from? Peace.
Praise Allah. You made a great point to always touch on. We got to take up our place in the affairs of men and start our own. We taught the world, the Amish, even the so-called Jews today. So
Islam?
Go
Islam,
ahead,
can the Moors hear me?
Bill.
Praise Allah. Can the Moors hear me?
The brother's he's on. I can hear you, Brother Smith.
Okay, praise Allah. He's going in and out. Well, praise Allah and honors to you, each and every one of you, Morris, and honors to you, Brother Rebels Bay, for bringing up that point. And I just wanted to just take a reading, if I could, from the editorial, A Divine Warning by the Prophet for the Nations, because, I think this ties into what we're speaking on here. This is on page 6, shortly after, where it states and talks about, uh, you who doubt whether I, the prophet, and my principles are right for the redemption of my people, go to those that know law, in the city hall and among the officials in your government, and ask them under intelligent tone, and they'll be glad to render you a favorable reply, for they are glad to see me bring you out of darkness into light. Money doesn't make the man. It is free national standards and power that makes a man and a nation. And this next part is key, I believe. The wealth of all national governments, gold and silver and commerce, belong to the citizens alone. And without your national citizenship, by name and principles, you have no true wealth. And just connecting that with, another editorial from this same Moorish literature, Moorish leaders' historical message to America, and towards the end where the prophet is talking about, you know, no other one thing is more needed among us at this time than greater economic power. And connected to that, he talks about how the problems of life are largely social and economic, and in a profound sense, moral and spiritual. So all of these thoughts that we're talking about with the finance that is brought in via taxes or via revenue, and what's being done with the finance, how do we in our own lives, as well as within the temple, as well as within our local communities and within our state and all the way up to the national level, how do we align the way that we use our finance with our principles and with, you know, uplifting fallen humanity in mind? The brothers and sisters brought up a lot of great points this evening. And, I was listening to a song from this artist. He's Kendrick Lamar's younger cousin. He just put out a new album. His name is Baby Keem. And I was listening to some of the songs, and a lot of the content of the album that he just put out relates to his experience, growing up in Las Vegas, in and out of foster homes, the difficulty of his family and, drug addiction. And there was this one statement that he said on one of the songs where he said, "Who am I without this government assistance?" And it really struck me, because I feel, so strongly that, and I believe Brother K. Turnabay spoke to this too, that so many of our brothers and sisters are in a position where they're relying on the government to help them in the situations that, or the circumstances that they may be in. And that's a blessing. That's what we should be able to do. We should be able to provide and give our brothers and sisters an opportunity to uplift themselves as well. But I think it's almost unfortunate in connection to that, you know, we may not see ourselves as a part and part, or not ourselves as just members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, but as our nation as a whole, to remind ourselves that we are a part and parcel of this government. And as citizens of this government, that gold and silver and commerce belongs to the citizens. So what the wealth of these nations, what the wealth of the states, what the wealth of the city should go towards is for the benefit of the citizens. And I think that that's a really important point when, you have a lot of wealth coming in from the city and going back to further and bolster and build up corporations, which are conglomerates of people and not necessarily directly individuals. So I think it's important to think about how we can, align our economic use with our principles in assisting in terms of, as Sister J. Jordan was speaking about, social programs and providing for the youth and providing for those who are in need, whether it's shelter or food, and just trying to consider how do we apply our principles in the way that we spend our finance. And with that, I say peace. Islam, Brother K. Turner Bay?
Islam. Thank you, dear brother. If y'all like to look,
Praise Allah. I do see a hand from Sister Cecile Zeal, and then Brother N. Rebels Bay, as well as Brother JP.
Islam. Sister Jordan, you want to explain some of the things you got in the chat?
Um, praise Allah. I can, sure. Praise Allah. In the chat, I can, let's see, do I have the ability to share? It's so in the chat, just gonna open it up. I put, since we've been talking about, again, when you opened up, there was several things that you said. And so, and again, praise and honor is already given. So when we talked about how the money is actually flowing and then how it actually hits the individual, of course, we're thinking about our individuals, our individual situations, tax situations, how the money that the government gets in, how it impacts the individual, and then whether it's ultimately going to the places that they say it's going and the way we think it's going. So perspective is important. So in the state of New York, I was explaining previously that you've got most of this money that comes from New York City that funds the state. And so there's this thought that when you think New York State, you just think New York City. But you need to look at the budget, and you can see it from the federal government has a site, Open Budget. I'm sorry, there's a site you can check, openbudget.ny.gov, and that will show you a forecast of how the funding looked throughout the years, where it was spent and how it's being spent and what's projected. And then you can also look from the state comptroller office. Again, we're talking about the state perspective, how that money was budgeted for in New York and how much money they get from the government and what they're actually spending it where. And then on the local level, you want to look at, because like I said, we've got local, state, and our federal government to look at. That gives you more information specifically, as Brother Revels Bay was saying, with regard to New York City, since you guys are in New York City, and understanding how that flows. Lastly, I would say, I was thinking the question about how the taxes are actually spent. When you look at I'm going to put a chart in there that will show you the individual income and then where it's actually, how many of them are actually paying those taxes. Because I think a lot of times we think about it's just coming out of the individual, low income, they're mostly affected, but that's not actually true. And so that's, hopefully that answers your question, dear brother. With that, I'll say peace. Brother Chairman.
Islam, Islam. Praise Allah. I just want to recognize, I know we had a hand from our Grand Sheikh, Sister Cecile Zeal, and then Brother N. Rebels Bay, and then there was another hand from Brother J. Peter Zeal. Sister Grand Sheikh, Sister Cecile Zeal.
Islam. Praise Allah and honors to our Prophet and honors to everything that you gave honors to at the opening of this class, Brother Chairman, and honors to all the beautiful minds. I want to give honors to our Sister Jay Jordanelle, who's also our assistant Sunday school instructor, Sister Shikas. I value to hear the tones, right? Because something that I've come to appreciate is when the Prophet talks about communicating, he always speaks about this intelligent tone, right? And I thought that was something, because these topics can incite passion. And we're encouraged, right, and instructed to keep our passions within the bounds of righteousness. And I think that the way that you all are providing this information makes it just that much more possible for one to control their emotions, because the more you're informed, the better balanced you will allow yourself to be if you're able to clearly deliver the information. And I thought that this was an important part within government, is even selecting a speaker, right? They have someone specifically designed as the speaker. And so if you have these different sectors as far as how things are set up, we have all these great questions, right? But we need to make sure that we have someone who's capable of balancing their emotions, communicating the thought, being clear and concise, and while delivering the thought. So I think that clarity, depth of thought, ability to discern, having a level of emotional clarity is very, very important. And so I value this discussion very much, and I appreciate the Moors bringing this to the forefront. So praise Allah, honor to the Prophet, and honor to you all. Peace.
Islam. Thank you, dear sister. We also got to remember that, without a foe, a soldier never knows his strength. And, people are always working in their lower self, in the most minute to the highest powers. And the Bible says this ain't a war, a physical war. This is a war of principalities and spiritual wickedness in the highest places. So we got to be on our P's and Q's and use our tools. Islam, who's the second person you called on?
Brother and Rebels Bay.
Rebels Bay? All right. And we're gonna end with Sister Jordan Neal and call back the Grand Sheikhs to read the warning.
Islam. I want to thank the Moors for the meeting. It made me think of something because one of the brothers was reading, and I didn't have my literature in front of me. And, from the Moorish literature, the prophet said that we shall be secure in nothing until we have economic power. A beggar people cannot develop the highest of them, nor can they attain to the general enjoyment of the spirituality of life. And for me, this is the first time it sort of stuck out that our men, women, and children should be taught to believe in the capacity of our group to succeed in business. In spite of the trials and failures of some of them, trials and failures in business are by no means confined to any particular group of people. Some business ventures of all people fail. We have many men and women among our people who are qualified both by training and experience, who are shining lights in the business world of all the people. So the more I read it, I said, wow, he's telling us about we got to be in business. So when I look at it from that perspective, I take the teachings of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and then I open a business, whatever that business might be. Hopefully, is that preaching those principles and using our principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And I think Sister Jordan, when I heard her speak, I thought about it too, about the business. We have many men and women who are qualified, and it's a sad weakness in us as a people if we've held the very encouragement, support, and patronage that would have made some of our worthy business ventures a grand success. And worst of all, have joined the condemnation of them, and they failed, except in the case of actual dishonesty, discourtesy, lack of service, and actual unreliability. Our business enterprises in every field of endeavor shall have for fullest confidence, cooperation, and patronage wherever they can be given. So to me, I guess that was the key. The prophet said we open a business, and the business will be bestowed upon us. As long as we see the kingdom of heaven, that really means about learning about your nationality and divine creed. Allah will give you what you need and tell you what you need to be quote unquote successful in whatever business that you care to get into. I'm speaking personally from that because I never thought I'd be personally be doing the things I'm doing and not necessarily tied to one business, but having my own business. Peace.
Praise Allah. That's epic, and we all can learn and definitely from this brother. And one thing I know is that we have to have keep our hearts and minds pure with love and our body clean with water. Because once that's not there, then you have the lower self that seeps in. When wisdom or when righteousness is being brought forth, it just seeps in. You got to catch it and restrain that devil. Islam, Sister Jordan Neal, and then we're going to call back the Grand Sheikhs for the warning. But before that, I'd like to say, if anything more, I'd like to honor those who came. Thank you for coming and thank the Moors for sharing. If I said anything that rubs the spirit in the wrong way, it is of me and part of the body. If anything you heard tonight from me personally, that's good. It is from Allah alone who is due to praise. With that, I say peace and pass the mic to Sister Jordan Neal. Peace.
Peace. Praise Allah and honors to you, Brother K. Turner, for doing this, for setting up this discussion and allowing for this conversation. I find that in our movement, we need to have these conversations. And I'm so grateful to you for spearheading this conversation. I just wanted to go back to a comment or to this question about how we as Moorish Americans can work to get a financial foothold in the state in which we are, which is currently New York State. So just a quick bullet points of, we have to master the system that we're operating in. And that includes learning about those, the tax infrastructures and licensing rules, real estate laws, grant and procurement opportunities, which, some of us have experienced with getting, and some of our members have contracts with the city and have been doing that successfully. So we need to tap into our own sources. Collective economics, like we know, over our own individual isolated hustles. We have to focus on cooperative businesses and have strategic real estate positioning, including, whether we want to branch out, have multifamily homes, or store mixed front properties, things that we know we've, had in the past. Leveraging public money is also important, which is grants and funding and support programs. Money is out there. We just have to, get to a point where we're focusing in and reaching out for these funds, building our own Moorish type enterprise networks. And I think we are on the way. I think we are working towards that. The thoughts are out there. And we all know about keeping our money circulating within our own community, financing and supporting our own. That's really important. Besides having a financial identity and documentation, making sure that we have clean credit profiles and accurate tax filings, that our properties that we do own are structured properly matters. And I can go on and on. With that, I'll say peace. Praise Allah and honors to you all for your participation. Peace and love more.
Islam, Sister Cecile here.
Islam, praise Allah. I'm not sure if you want to take the hand. You had the hand from Brother J. Petersville.
Islam most. Just wanted to add on with every dollar, right? With every dollar we spend, the prophets. Or the question is, how could we, right? How could we, whatever dollar we spend, make it go from center, right? How Brother Ferguson likes to say, right? How do we send every dollar from center, right? From center, from who we gave it to, right? So that it can reverberate and touch everybody else. How do we make our dollars Muslims, right? How do we make, just certain concepts or thoughts that we have. And I wanted to also share that when we do go and study these codes and these laws, it's imperative that we take the prophet with us, right? And his concepts and his thoughts with us, so that we won't apply certain laws or things that doesn't apply to us. For that, I just say peace. And thank you for the most for allowing me to speak and being in the meeting. Peace and love.
Peace. Islam, Sister Cecile, you want to read the warning? And Sister Brother
Islam?
Islam.
Islam. I know Brother I. Smithfield generally reads the warning, so I would yield for Brother I. Smithfield to read the warning.
Praise Allah, praise Allah. Islam, Brother I. Smithfield, you want to read the warning? And Sister Jordan, you want to take us out in prayer?
Praise Allah.
Praise Allah. Praise Allah. I'm just each and every one of you, Morris, and I appreciate the thought. Just give me one moment. I've got to actually locate. Praise Allah. So I'll be taking a reading of the proclamation from the Humanities pamphlet. We can find that. 1 second, Morris. Apologies. Thought it was right in front of me. I can take a reading from the Morse literature.
Morse, yeah, praise Allah.
Praise Allah. My apologies, Morse. Going to find it on page 14 of the Morse literature. Divine warning by the Prophet Noble to Ali. Prophet warns all Muslims, governors ordered to read proclamation at each meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical, agitating speeches while at work, in their homes or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your cards for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice then must take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings toward the temple or the prophet, or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Drew Ali. If the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet therefore is sending out the divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet to the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. By order of Prophet Noble Drew Ali.
Peace. Moors, if you are able to, please rise and face the east. 5 on the right, 2 on the left. Praise Allah for the Moorish American prayer. Repeat after me. Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, the
Lord,
Father
the
of the
Father of
universe.
the
Allah, the Father
universe,
of the universe,
Father of love,
Father of love,
Father of love,
truth,
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 peace,
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 freedom,
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 and justice.
and
and
justice.
justice.
and justice.
Allah is my protector,
Allah,
Allah is my
Allah is
protector,
my protector,
my guide,
my
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 God,
guide,
God,
my guide,
and my salvation.
and my
my
and
salvation.
my
salvation.
salvation.
By night and by day,
By night
By
and by
night
day,
and by day,
through his holy prophet,
whose
To his
through his
holy
holy
prophet,
holy
prophet,
prophet,
Drew Ali.
True Ali.
through Ali.
Drew
Ali.
Ali.
Amen.
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 Islam,
Amen.
travel safe, dear boss.
Praise
Praise
Allah.
Allah,
Praise
praise
Time to
Allah.
Allah.
pay. This brother
Most
Beautiful
Israel will pay
information.
Islam.
Thank you so much, dear sister.
Praise Allah.
Islam.
Allah.
Moors, Islam to the Moors.
Strategies
But-
with Moors.
And
We may
remember,
have
Moors,
our sister Sheikah